Welcome to another episode of the Get Out Swim podcast. I'm your host, Seamus T. Quinn. Here's my co-host, João Mescalote, swim coach João. And today we're joined by a former teammate of João's at LSU. He is a male deaf swimmer and a reality television contestant, which is a really cool combination. Today's guest is Matt Klotz. Matt, thanks for hopping on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. So this is the first time we're connecting, and I think it's pretty cool. João recommended reaching out and kind of getting your perspective, which is unusual, being a deaf swimmer and someone who has you said you were born deaf, grew up kind of swimming in that environment and growing up in that environment. So yeah, let's start there. How was that growing up as a swimmer? Being hard of hearing, and how did you kind of work with that and understanding what it meant to just go through the world with not the same I guess approach that other people are having?
Yeah, there's like a lot of factors. Obviously, I think swimming and then school are two different worlds. School I was struggling so much in because obviously I'm in a classroom and the teacher's talking. I'm not going to get information from them because I have to read their lips and all that. I didn't go to deaf school. My parents wanted to put me in regular school, and I think that was the best thing for the outcome in the long run. Because in reality, not everyone does sign language, that everyone, in the country speaks English. So, it was more beneficial for me, if I did deaf school and all that, going into swimming, that would have been harder too, because communication, making friends on the team, all that. Swimming was kind of my peace, zone, my peace time. 8 hours of school, I'm burned out, I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed. Then swimming, you get to be physical, you can be active, you don't have to listen really, besides obviously the coach telling you what to do. And it's interesting too, because of why I chose swimming out of all sports, because in swimming I have to take my hearing aids off. But I think it's such a California sport. I grew up in California. My sister was a swimmer. She went year round, and I followed her footsteps because I did every sport that you could do growing up, and we just focused on swimming. The bigger picture was I'm not very academically smart because I'm not learning in classrooms. So focus was, let's do sports in college, pay your way into college from that. And swimming was kind of the best sport to do because that was what I did the most. I was committed to that the most. And obviously my sister being a swimmer, parents can't go to, 2 different locations at once. So swimming was the one that stuck out. And yeah, it was kind of my motivation for everything too, being deaf. I had something on my shoulder kind of, rather than just kind of doing it for myself. It was like, oh, I want to prove everyone I can do it, because I didn't have that in school. Really, I wasn't that great at school. So swimming was kind of my motivating factor.
Sure.
So I know a little bit of your story, Matt, but I wanted you to share, when did you guys find out about the hearing condition, and how did that come about? Like you said, you mentioned that your parents decided to put you in normal school, and growing up, as normal as possible, right? I know that there's definitely times, like you said, you have to read lips, and that can be challenging.
Yeah.
But take us back to beginning. Where are you from? You said you're from California. You said that. When did you start swimming? When did you kind of started this journey in swimming?
Yeah, so starting from the whole beginning, my parents found out 2 years later, actually. So my first 2 years growing up, they didn't know I was profoundly deaf. And they were questioning it because after 2, I hadn't spoken my first word. I wasn't responding very well, when they would try to get my attention, and they're just wondering if something's wrong with me. They have no idea though, no clue, because it's usually a genetic thing. They didn't have automatic hearing tests they do now, but they didn't have that back then, and so they had no idea until I was 2. Got checked out, I remember my mom like bawling. She's like, we had no idea and all that. And it was kind of like, as well, the next step, what do we do now? You know, like, because if he can't hear, like, what's the next step? Because they don't have friends that were deaf too and stuff. So it's a whole new world, new ball game for them. I remember growing up, like preschool all the way to high school, really. I had to take speech therapy, of course. So I did school, and on top of that, another session of school, basically learning how to speak right and sound right and properly, like learning the vocal cords and all that. And I did that for 14 years growing up. So that was a tremendous amount of sacrifice on top doing sports as well. So I had 3 like things I had to do every day, which takes the whole time of the day, you know, growing up. So I was very busy. It was just a factor of all those things together.
And then you mentioned you did a lot of sports. When did you decide, like, all right, swimming?
Yeah, I think
where I'm staying.
Swimming it's like kind of 2 phases. Swimming at 9, because that's when I went year round, and that's a commitment because you go, you know, recreational swimming. That's kind of over summer leagues and fun. I went over at 9 because my sister had switched over. That's when I started like kind of focusing only swimming. I did a couple sports here and there, like basketball, cross country, but eventually I just focused only swimming. By high school, well, honestly, by middle school, I did maybe karate, but by middle school, it was really the only sport I did. And then, I mean, I was just doing it for fun. It was my piece, you know. I was like, I just like swimming. I like getting away from the classroom. It was just kind of for fun. Obviously, I was decent at it, but I wasn't anything like crazy. You know, I was just average, maybe a little bit better than average. But it was junior year was when I really kind of started taking off. Obviously, puberty hit, growth spurt. You know, I got up to 6 foot all of a sudden, 6'2". So I grew a lot in high school. And junior year, I was just fascinated with swimming. I just clicked, and I was like, you know, I want to be better. I want to make it to college. I want to be really good. And that's when everything kind of changed. And that was also like when I went to Deaflympics as well, my first games, which was 2013, and I was a junior. So it kind of all just changed from there. I was fully committed by high school for swimming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What were some of your kind of favorite parts of the LSU team? Straight
up, it's just like the men's team. Like, I think the bond there is just insane, and like you get so close with them compared to like I feel like any other sport too. We're with each other from 6 a.m. all the way till 8 p.m. and then on top of that, your roommates are swimmers too, so you're with them full time basically. Also, like at LSU as well, for me, it was the academic support that I got because I already had a disadvantage to my disability. There was a lot of there was disability services and athletic services offered, and that helped me so much getting through college. You know, we had the mandatory 8-hour freshman year study hall, which sucks, but in the long run, it helps because that's when, you know, you get all the help you need. And then obviously on top of that is LSU sports. I think just every team there, every sport at LSU is just really high ranked, and the atmosphere is crazy. The culture is crazy there. It just had the overall package, and that was the whole reason why I wanted to commit there, and the whole reason why I loved that I went there.
For those who don't know, Matt's sister actually went to Alabama. She swam for Alabama, so it was big. Yeah. So it was pretty fun rivalry against them as well. But I think, like Matt said, we had Milo last week. And he kind of highlighted as well. Like, a lot of people look at Louisiana as like not their number one choice of a place to go live in, but if you're a athlete at LSU, the support that you get from athletics and the way that they hype you up is insane. So
yeah,
I think that's kind of like
big names that have come out of LSU. You know, Paul Skeens, Livy Dunn, Shaq. You know, Joe Burrow, just insane.
Maggie McNeil.
Maggie. He said Maggie McNeil.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But so take us back to like the Deaflympics. How did that come about? Like, how did you guys find out that that's a competition? 2013, you're doing well in swimming, and then all of a sudden, I think it was in Rio. Was that the one in Rio?
Well, Brazil,
no, Sao Paulo.
Brazil was 2022, but technically supposed to be 2021, but everything was back a year because of COVID.
Oh.
First one was Bulgaria. It was Bulgaria.
Oh.
And that was 2013. I found out about it in like 2012 when I was swimming, just regular year-round swimming, and there was a girl who was on like in our league, but on a different team. And her parents were like, "Oh, he's deaf," and their daughter had swam in I think the 2009 Deaflympics and told us about it, and we were like, "Oh, we didn't even know such a thing existed." It was kind of like an invisible thing. It's not something that just everyone knows that's out there, and like, which is awesome. So I'm so glad that they had reached out and told me about it, because I probably wouldn't have not known about that till probably like I was in college, because there just wasn't a lot of coverage on it. And all that, at that time, I don't even think SwimSwam was a thing. In 2013, maybe 2013 it was, but like, I was in the Instagram, internet grew. I didn't know about those things.
Yeah. But so what's the process like? Explain to us, like, what's the difference? Because we know the Olympics, we know the Paralympics.
Mhm.
So is Deaflympics like part of that same movement?
Yeah.
Is it a complete
It's
different instance?
A whole thing. They were, I think, a part of it, but then became a separate thing in 1924. So this was like their 100th year of Deaflympics, basically, when I went. And it's completely separated from Olympics and Paralympics. And that is kind of like a pride thing, but also a negative thing. Deaflympics wants to be, deaf people back then wanted to do their own thing, our own division, because Paralympics wasn't also funded back then until I don't know which year, but it wasn't a thing. So that's why they went with that. And then obviously now going forward, obviously Paralympics is supported and funded. Deaflympics still isn't. So I had to find a way to get 7,000 or like 10,000 really to come to Tokyo, because it's all on my own expense, all that. And that's for every athlete in US. But other countries are paid, funded. Italy got paid, Ukraine got paid. Ukraine, after Deaflympics, the whole entire Ukrainian deaf team, all sports, met with Zelensky. They were at like the White House for them. And they got like the people that got medals got medal like honors or something. They had like a whole medal like from the president. But yeah, US, it's just, we're kind of an outcast. We're left out. And that's something too. Like, honestly, like now that I have a following from Big Brother and I have a bigger, larger audience, that's something I kind of probably going to aim for the next 4 years, is advocating for it and trying to get some support and funding. Because like, if I was another country, I'd be really rich, because they 90,000 per gold medal, all that. Like, I know, like, obviously Kazakhstan's not going to medal a lot, but they get $1 million per medal, which is insane. And that's why, like, when I went on Big Brother, everyone thought I was a millionaire, because they're like, "Oh, they get paid, they have like make lots of money." I'm like, not American, so we're left in the dust, so we don't get paid. We lose money to do it.
Wow. Yeah. And so is there a federation? How does that work?
Yeah, there's it's the Deaf Sports, United States Deaf Sports Federation, and that's the federation that represents all the deaf sports. But it's so different because it's also it's so complicated, because it's sports countries all are different. Like other countries fund all their athletes and their sports. For like America, so swimming isn't funded, but women's soccer is funded and paid. Basketball is funded. So it's certain sports too. And like, I think it's just like, which is crazy to me in my mind. Like, obviously I'm not trying to be biased because I'm a swimmer. But swimmers, like when I went to the games, I scored 1/4, a little over 1/4 of all the medals for USA, which is a big chunk for an individual. Yeah. And let alone swimming side is over half. I think I did the math and it was like 60 to 70% of the medal count came from swimmers, and we're still the one sport that isn't funded. which is insane because it's like y'all got to do something, you know, because like swimmers are the one that's representing USA at this, and if we decide to just boycott swimming, USA is gonna be at the bottom tier for Deaflympics. Like we're not gonna be up there anymore.
Yeah. Is there any? Is it related to USA Swimming? How does that work?
And I'm not sure. And that's why I want to make sure I'm right and all that. But I believe so. I obviously don't want to call it USA Swimming, but I believe that's what it is because it's like the USA national soccer team is funded by funds the US deaf soccer team.
Got it.
I think it comes from that kind of organization. There was rumors that USA was going to fund us this year, and then they kind of like I think someone got fired, and then they had like reevaluate all the board and stuff. So I don't know much about that, but that's real apparently. Yeah.
But how does the selection process happen? For example, when you were 13, you heard about the games, then how do you shoot to be part of the team? Is there a trials? Is there a cut that you have to get? Tell us a little bit about that.
It's kind of open book, but also a time standard. You have to go a certain time, but that range is pretty broad because there's only how many deaf swimmers. So, you know, it's not going to be like you got to go US Open cut. Not like that at all. It would be like, I guess, in the swimming standard, USA swimming standard, it'd be like an A cut. If you remember like the A, double A, triple A. Yeah. So I think it would be like that maybe. And then you also have to get the hearing test to prove that you are deaf rather than just saying, oh, I'm deaf. You have to do the hearing test. And then you within that, because it's like the same thing too, like now for cuts to count, you have to do it within that year. Because I remember like at US trials, they would take people from over 4 years ago. But now it's like you have to do it within like 2 years or 1 year. So you kind of have to swim in that year. That's what I had to do this time because I hadn't swam since 2 years ago. I had to do a meet. So I went to a random meet in Dallas and swam that. I just did the 50 just to show that, okay, I could still swim. Because I wasn't going to do all 14 races to get an individual for everything. So I just did one race. So yeah, it's pretty basic standard. And
it's the same rules, like they take top 2 or
no,
if you're funding yourself, like can you pay?
It's top 4, and it's like at the same time it's who can afford to do it at the same time because it's like we're not paid, we're not funded. So it's like if you can have money as well, you have this standard to make Deaflympics, and then if you can afford to do it at your own expense. So every 4 years is different. Sometimes we have 4 guys and 4 girls for relays. Or sometimes we'll have like 6 and 8. So I think we had 6 guys and 8 girls for this one. And so, which is nice because then you can have the prelim relays, you know, swap out people to rest, which I got that benefit because we have 6 guys. So some of the relays I didn't have to swim in prelims because we were fast enough to make it back to finals and take care of it. I was already doing 28 races. So 28 races finals, but yeah, it was a lot. A little too much, but yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so throughout all of that selection, is that the only competition that you can go to? Like, is the Deaflympics? There's no like other like national deaf nationals or
so they have like they do in Euros or European, like they had was it European Championships? They just had it.
Short course meters.
So they have that for deaf as well, and then we have not US. We don't have the US, but we have Deaf Worlds, which is every 2 years, just kind of like how regular swimming is. We have Worlds every 2 years, I think, and then every 4 years the Olympics. So it's it's not every 2 years. It's technically every 4 years, but it's 2 years after the Olympic Games. So we have that, but I haven't done those just because when I was training, it was like, okay, I'm with LSU. They're going to want me to go to nationals instead. The competition is more fierce there, and I want that, you know, and it's reliable. Like I know if I go to U.S. nationals, the pool's going to be good. Everything's going to be run smoothly. With like Deaf Worlds, you know, there's a lot of factors. You got to go internationally. Pool might not be as good as like American pools are. So I just stuck with just like U.S. nationals or worlds, whatever. And I'm
assuming you have to fund yourself for worlds and everything as well, right?
Yeah, and that's the same thing as well. So it's like it's just not worth it. Like, yeah, I'll get a lot of medals as short course meters, which will be cool because I can get more records than that because I've never swam. And if I do, a backstroke, then you get the short course meter backstroke world records. But maybe I'll do it. But it's also a lot of money as well too, just for that.
Is there categories? Like in the Paralympics, there's like for swimming, there's like 13 or 14. Is there different?
It's just the event itself, and then because it's kind of like an even playing field because obviously with Paralympics, there's different types of disabilities, but for swimming, it's just the deafness, and when you're swimming, you take the hearing aids out, and then also for other sports. So that's another rule is you compete with your hearing aids out. So then it's a fair playing field because then there's someone that's completely deaf, and then there's someone that has hearing aids that can hear 70%. That's still an unfair advantage. And so it's the best way to do it is just take the hearing aids off and to keep that fairness, because that would make sense for a different, fully deaf and then the hard of hearing, but they make it one thing and they just, all of us have to take our hearing aids off for competition and stuff.
That's what I was wondering, because obviously like in swimming, we have the buzzer go. Obviously there's the light, and I remember you telling us like sometimes you go by the light, but I still think it's such a wild concept to me to rrely on the light. Like just to start on a 50 free, for example.
Exactly. And like it was, there's advantage too still, because like the light is always where the starter is, so it's on the side of like lane 1 or lane 8, and when we do our starts, we don't want our head turned all the way over there, because what's going to happen when you dive? You're going to dive sideways, So like that was another thing. And then Marcus, who was actually there, but he's 39 now, but he was an Arizona swimmer. He was really good. He was double O. I don't know if he went 59 yet, but in the breaststroke, he was finalist at U.S. trials twice, 12 and 16. So he's a badass. He was I think was the start of getting the strobe light individual lanes, and I think you would see that. I don't know if we did that like dual meets, just because it's a dual meet. But I would request the strobe light to be in my lane, and that's always like required, I think, now at like U.S. nationals, all the FINA regulated meets.
If you request in advance, they need to put the light on your lane.
And because like I was looking at videos, I was like trying to see. I was like, oh yeah, because I remember at U.S. National, I had the strobe light in my lane, and it's crazy because strobe light, your reaction to light is faster than you reacting to the sound. So you can tell the difference when I don't have the light. I'm maybe a little, like, obviously it's like, really slim, but you can tell I'm leaving a little slower. And then with the light, I'm usually the first head movement. Yeah.
Interesting. That's cool.
I just had a thought. What are some things that people might not know about or consider that someone who's hard of hearing, who's deaf, has to like deal with, especially in sport, swimming, like things that people might not even like take a minute to consider or understand?
Like I think swimming, I can easily tell all the difference. With other sports, it's different, but like swimming, I lived through it, so I know it all. It's like paces. Like I'm not going to spend 5 seconds trying to say what when I got to leave in 10 seconds. So like when we were doing paces at LSU, I typically would not hear the paces and just keep swimming, and then I would ask after what were my paces, and like there's little things like that. Obviously, it was cool. It was like at LSU, we do the paper on the kickboards, so I would have the set there, but it's just little things like that. Just missing call outs. Like sometimes the coaches will say like 100 for time, and I'm not going to know what's going on. Obviously the boys joke around and stuff, and they'll be like, yeah, it's a 200 max, or face up, and it was like actually like a 200 cool down, and Jack is like, oh, we're doing 200 max. I was so pissed, and everyone's all happy, and I was like, why is everyone freaking happy? I was like, I'm so mad right now. We have to do a 200 max, and then I sprint like the first 50, and everyone's just laughing. I'm like, god damn it. But yeah, there's just like all variables, like and that was really cool. With like LSU's, like everyone there was so chill about it. I think people could be intimidated. They don't want to like offend me and stuff. And I'm the last person to get offended. Like if you roast me, that means like we're friends, like you're comfortable with me, you know, like I want to be in that kind of environment rather than like people on their tiptoes, afraid to ask, like, you know, or, you know, I don't want pity, you know.
And now a quick word from our sponsor, Aquatic Sports Performance. If you're serious about getting stronger, faster, and increasing your mobility, ASP has you covered. They specialize in strength, mobility, and dryland programs built specifically for swimmers and aquatic athletes. Everything is delivered right through the Train Heroic app, so you can follow along easily and track your progress. I've personally been using their online strength and mobility program, and let me tell you, it's made a real difference in how I feel in the gym and how I move in the pool. It's structured, effective, and tailored to what aquatic athletes need most. So if you want to train smarter and build real strength that transfers to your swimming, check out Aquatic Sports Performance and their Train Heroic programs. You'll find links in the show notes. This segment of the podcast is brought to you by SwimSmart. SwimSmart is an incredible company that has a plethora of tools, including designs like the push paddle, the power harness, the squeeze line, and an informative book like The Biology of Swimming. If you're interested in learning how to level up your swimming, go to swimsmarttoday.com to find the best tools for you. Use code GETOUTSWIM for a discount on your purchase. Thanks again, SwimSmart.
Yeah,
For sure. Yeah. That makes sense.
So post college, right? Finish your college career. I know you raced a little bit pro because you're finishing like school, maybe.
That whole year it went kind of crazy. Then I got back into swimming because we had a new coach at LSU, and I was a really big fan of Lyle, and Lyle was still there, and they knew I wanted to train still. Obviously, with the COVID, it was hard to train because of all the new rules, so I couldn't really train because I was graduated. Then Rick came in, and Rick offered, like, do you want to train with us? And I was like, absolutely. And I was like, I will say, like, I trained that up to Worlds, and then I was going to train more, but obviously Big Brother opportunity came along, and I took that, and it was cool because I told Rick about it. I told Lyle because I had to. I was like, I can't just disappear out of nowhere, even though it's confidential. But, you know, Rick was really, like, respectful, understanding. He was like, I'm just here to help you at the end of the day. Like, do you want to go do this, do that? I'm here. Like, I'm not going to hold you back, you know. And then I was told I was, you know, I'm committed to training. I'm committed to help this team out, even though I'm not on the team anymore. But that was a great, like, that was, like I said, like, pro training, you know, it's just so much different ball game than being a college athlete. You know, the focus is different. You're able to specialize more. You get morning practices off more. It was the best experience. You know, I had so much fun. I was training with Brooks Curry, you know, and Maggie as well. And the environment was just, you know, excellent. You know, like, everyone is trying to be the best. You know, it was perfect environment. And that was in 7 months after taking a 2-year break, basically. I went best times in the 50s. I, you know, went 25.3 in the 50 back. I was super stoked about that. It was 7 months of training, just getting back after 2 years, you know. It was funny because, like, Rick would always make fun of me because he's like, you got a belly now. And I was like, don't worry, I'm going to lose it. And with all that training, I did. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, and how did that transition into, like, Big Brother mentality?
Yeah, I think, I mean, like, swimming in general, yeah, you have that mentality. You're away from your family already, you know, just college alone. We only get to go home maybe a week for Christmas. For international, so you guys don't really get that opportunity because it's too much time traveling, and you don't get that much time. So I was used to being away from people and stuff, and then just with swimming, and then obviously, you know, my gap year, I partied a lot, and I met so many people, and I got very social and all that. I learned how to make friends with people off the bat, you know, and that's kind of translated into Big Brother of being social and athletic at the same time, because that game is very focused on both of those aspects. And that came from my experiences with, like, LSU, being an athlete, and then also having a disability, putting those all together, kind of just connect into that.
Seamus, do you know what Big Brother is?
Yeah. Like, I've never seen the show, but I read up a little bit about it. And
explain briefly, Matt. Like,
short term.
What the program? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a reality TV show that's been around since 2000. I was on season 25. It's a competition, but also a social game aspect. Basically, the concept is a social experiment. 16 every year, sometimes different, but it's roughly 16 people are put in, half guys, half girls. Very diverse cast. It's, you know, you're not going to have this. So I was the athlete. I was the guy that was deaf. There was no other person that was an athlete, really. It was the surfer guy, you know. So they have like a little niche for everything, and everyone's different. They see how you guys mesh together. Every week, you build someone home, and then you just go all the way to the end until you're evicted or you win. It's competitions in between. You get power in the house, all that kind of stuff. I was gonna say, you get no phones. You're cut off from the outside world. So for me, I went 100 days. So I went 100 days with no internet, no news, no phone communication with anyone in the outside world. It's those 16 people each week. Someone goes home and it just dwells. So it's a very interesting concept, you know, like going in there and then coming out after so long. It's just like a new lifestyle. And yeah, it's just like that basically.
Cool.
And for those who don't know, Matt you got second place, right?
Runner up, I saw. Yeah.
Yeah, I almost brought it home.
What was that experience like, just being, you know, a contestant on the show and going through that? And if your background as a elite competitive swimmer helped translate over to like that mentality at all, like talk to us about that.
Yeah, it definitely helped the mentality. And then at the same time, with that status, it was also a threat. You know, people saw me as a comp threat in the beginning. You know, the first competition, very first day we get in, I win the first one, and it was totally physical. And I was like, okay, I can't throw it because they're gonna like, why did this guy lose that competition where he's just pure muscles, just like pushing something basically. It's, you know, like I had to downplay my athletic ability because people were already like, we got a freaking Olympian in the house, like he's gonna win every comp. So I was like, okay, that's not good, because you don't want to win every comp, because if you're doing that, you're going to be controlling the house a lot and they're going to kick you out, basically vote you out. So I focused on the social aspect heavily, because I did that. I was able to throw basically every comp if I wanted to, because I was always technically safe every week. The people that were in the power wouldn't put me up because I had a social game with each person. And whether it was real or not, like they believed that I was on their side. And because I never won comps, I never had to show my cards to show who I'm really working with. And that was my strategy. Just like pretend I'm trying the comps, but keep the social game up. That's how I navigated. And, you know, the whole mentality of being a swimmer, you know, growing up, I've had so many hardships with the disability too. So like, you know, some people get homesick on there. I didn't get homesick. Some people get anxiety. I didn't get anxiety. You know, for me, I was kind of straight as an arrow. The only problems was kind of being the deaf person. You know, people didn't understand how to communicate with me all the time. So I had to keep reminding them, and that was a cool experience because a lot of them never met a deaf person. And like there were times like where people would talk. It's because when they talk about Big Brother, it's house full of whispers, and you got the deaf guy here. So you like, what do you think? You know. And so people are whispering and stuff, and I'm like getting pissed off because I understand that's the game, but it's like I'm literally in the same room. You don't need to whisper; like no one's gonna hear. And things like that. So it was a cool transition. It was a cool learning experience for myself as well, but also for TV and audience that are watching, because they don't get to see that very often. A lot of people that are deaf that are on reality TV shows. So it was a really cool experience, and you know, I signed up for that challenge. I knew it wasn't going to be perfect. I knew there was going to be challenges where like they didn't know what to do, and that's what happened. It was crazy. It was a whole thing, but it was like week 2, I had to do a hearing comp, and everyone was like, "Oh no!" And it was like a fluke, you know. And like it was crazy because I didn't see it, but I was told about it, and everyone told me about it after, and like everyone got pissed off. Like they were getting mad at production for it. It was a whole thing. Obviously, I have a good mutual respect with production and back and forth, because I knew like they were going to make a mistake, and I myself was going to make a mistake by not speaking up. You know, that was my fault for not speaking up on the spot. But again, I'm on live TV. I don't want to be the, like the sour guy that's going to throw a fit. Like, I'm not doing that, but it was really cool to kind of see that play out. Kind of see, like, at the end of the day, like, we're all competitors. We're all against each other because we're all trying to win 750,000. But at the end of the day, it's like they were pissed off for me. They started screaming at the cameras, and they're like, you got to do better and all that. And it was cool to see that because, like, we don't know each other. Like, we only know each other for 2 weeks, but they're still, sticking up for me. So it was a cool experience to see.
Very cool.
Interesting. I wanted to draw up kind of like a parallel, just from you understanding a lot more about like that viewership side of it now. Like you said, you had so much strategy to what people think is just like get in a house, do a couple of games, and if you get voted out, you get voted out. But
right, understanding
that now, and then coming from your background of like what you mentioned early, Deaflympics, and how it gets no exposure, it gets no one talks about it. What are some things that you think personally, and you don't have to call anyone out or any federation out, but like what are some of your personal kind of like thoughts on how to grow like the sport of swimming for the deaf community?
Like, what are you asking? Like, what's the question? Sorry.
Like, you obviously understand a lot more like media and how to get the eyes and how to get the attention. What are some of your thoughts on, like, all right, Deaflympics, Deaf Worlds, Deaf swimming, right? And as a whole, how do we generate more viewership to that community?
I think, like, I can't do it myself, but I think me being on a reality TV by itself has brought a lot more viewership because people didn't know about it. And then, like, it was only 2 years ago. So, like, they didn't know about it 4 years ago when I went. And so it was cool seeing that now, just the amount of fans messaging me through and all that. It's just something I have to advocate for. And it's just, there's no, TV for it, there's just a lot that can be done. What's really cool, there's a documentary coming out. They came to this. They started in 2013 when I was just like 16, and they wrapped it up, and it's going to be out next year. And that's something I'm going to be promoting this whole coming up year. So that's another.
So it's a documentary about your life, or
it's kind of, but not just me. It was like me and Marcus, but it's kind of like. I stayed around for so long, and then I kept going, like the 10-year 10-year timeline is like, I went on a TV show and still promoted like the deaf community. It was focused on deaf people. It's focused on Deaflympics. And then I'm like, I would say like the main character, but it's not a documentary of just me, but I'm like one of the main characters basically. And I think that's gonna be really good to promote and like get awareness, because that's kind of the focus that needs to happen right now. I think is awareness and promoting it, and that, because there's just a lack of that. Because like obviously USA Swimming knows, but like I don't know how to explain it. Like companies have never heard of it. When you're trying to get sponsorships and stuff, they have no idea this thing exists. And I think when you have that all ties down to bring more awareness and promoting it more, I think there's a lot of ways, and I think there are some steps that are happening, but there still needs to be more work done. And that's where I feel responsible a little bit, just because I have the advantage of being on a reality TV show and I have all these viewers. An episode of Big Brother was 3 million people watching. And that's a lot, like obviously I don't have 3 million followers, but people that don't follow me still see me in public, still hear about me and stuff, who I am. And, that's powerful. It comes with cons, obviously, because if I make a mistake, I do something wrong, it's all over the place. But it's powerful in a way. It's like I need to do something, I can't just expect it to just happen. I think I need to make a movement. I need to promote it more. I need to advocate and be a voice for it. And that's going to be my goal the next 4 years. I think it's just really like standing, not my ground, but standing up for the deaf athletes, because there will be more. It's like competition will get better. It's getting better already, but like slowly, it could be so much faster. And
is there like a board of athletes of like the Deaf Swimming Federation or no?
Yeah, no, it's nothing like serious, I would say, but like the board is just kind of within the community. It's not really in the outside community. It's just like the board with only deaf people and just that. It's not really the whole world kind of thing or the whole country kind of thing. Yeah.
Because I'm thinking I have a lot of friends in the Paralympic community, like a lot of friends that have earned so many Paralympic medals.
Yeah.
In the US and Brazil and throughout the world. But like, and I know swimming is already a sport that suffers a lot with lack of exposure, and we're already trying to figure out things, to make swimming in itself like a more enjoyable sport to watch.
I feel like in the swimming world is Olympics. It's when it's
right. And I'm thinking like an integration, like we do this in Brazil a lot. There's a big integration of swimming and para swimming. So like at any given nationals or, like some local regional meets, they will do like, they would tag it as like a para swimming meet as well. Okay. So let's say there's like a final for the 50 free. And then the next heat, instead of like a B final, that's the para final. Obviously, there's different categories, but it's kind of like, in a way, it's fun to be around and ask, because like yourself, these people are training just as hard, if not harder. Like they go through the same struggles, and they never get to have the same exposure, the minimal exposure that we get in the sport of swimming, like para athletes, deaf athletes are probably not getting. So I was just wondering if you had anything in mind, any like kind of like
that happening, really. And it's like it comes from another thing too, because it's exposure. So there's like, I mean, that's another thing too. I don't know how many deaf swimmers there are because it's not heard of, but there are some out there. We've got a couple of colleges that are deaf, and like just making it to college alone is great as heck. And like you got that, so it just depends. Like, and it's like different. Like you said with swimming, it's already like doesn't get a lot of publicity, and then it's like just like that's cool that Brazil does that. Like with the heats and stuff, and like that would work for swimming too. And then it's so different because other sports is like, okay, let's say soccer. Heats in soccer is like fully teams, so there's so many different aspects. That's what makes it kind of difficult, because every sport is unique in its way, and the way you can spread the exposure, it's going to be different from every sport.
So all right, post all of this, I know I've seen you, this is more personal, but I saw you maybe in May at one of our friends' wedding. And you were what, 225 pounds?
I was like 225 at that time, and I got up to 245.
And we were talking about you going to Japan, and you had barely started training at. Talk to us about your training. Like, I know you did 3 days a week gym. Like, who was coaching you? What sorts of workouts were you getting from, or just your head or someone else? Like, what was your strategy going into swimming 28 events, you said?
Right, 28. Yeah, it was very, very individual, I would say. Like, I didn't have a coach. I went to Lifetime because I have a membership there, and I just swam in that pool. And because I travel a lot, I did Lifetime. So when I have access to multiple pools around the country, it was just swimming, like I said, like 1,000, 2,000 yards on my own, no coaching. I will say though, like, even though it was individually, but like what came from it was the experience, Lyle's sets, Steve's sets, your sets, like it was like focusing. It's like the yards, it's like I didn't focus the yards. I focused the perfect technique training, perfect sprint, no, I didn't do any 70%, 80%. I did everything max as I could with the limited time I had. And then on top of that, I had that extra weight, like from muscles and stuff from training. And I think a lot of that, the reason why I didn't obviously go any best at Deaflympics, but like that 53 was only 0.2 off my best, which is pretty good.
And for the last day as well. He went, Seamus, he went 23, 1. at the last day. Yeah.
Amazing. 23-1's fast.
That all came from strength training, like, because I only trained for 2 months, like that's not a lot. Yeah, and like, but when I put it together, it's like I've obviously been training my whole life as a swimmer. So, there's the muscle memories, there's the knowledge, the experience, the mentality. I know how to prepare for the meet. I know how to prepare for each race. I know how to eat properly and all that. And then 2 years of training of just, muscles. And I didn't do just like heavy weights. I did, kind of swimming focused muscles, and those things. So it really, I was never not training, but in the water, I was not training for a long time. And that was a lot of, hesitant. I was like, am I going to do good? Is it going to be a fluke? Like, am I going to do good in one race and then I'm going to be crashed out the rest of the meet? But yeah, there wasn't a lot, but it was just all from experience, all knowing what I need to do the best I can to get ready for it. Obviously, I should have trained the whole year before this, knowing because it's a 28 races, not light. But it just came with, I'm traveling a lot and all that. So I had to find what I can do the best to my ability.
What was your split during the week? Like 3 swims?
It was weights every day for sure. Rest days would be Sundays, but like it was kind of what would I say, like a wake up and feel what I'm feeling today. Do I feel the energy after doing a 2-hour weight session to go swim and sprint? And I was learning through that, and I was like, I remember how hard it was when we did the weight room and then go to practice right after. And it's hard for sprinters and stuff with muscles. And so I switched around. I was like, I'm going to swim first and then do weights, kind of things like that. There really wasn't any discipline, like workout. There wasn't any discipline, like I'm doing this on Tuesday, this, and that. It was just, I'm either going to swim or I'm going to lift today. And for me, I was going to this meet, I'm only focusing on the 50s and 100s, everything else is just a bonus. So I was like, I think the best thing is weights and short swimming, just to focus on the sprints and stuff rather than doing the yardage, because I'm doing 200, yes, but that's just kind of a potluck race. So I'm going to focus on what's best for sprinters, when I think that is the weight room and short practices with sprinting involved.
Mm-hmm. Did you do a lot of like parachute, power, that type of stuff?
Yeah, and I've Finnis sent me some stuff, and that helps so much, because I was basically just training naked with nothing, and it was so boring just staring at the bottom of the pool. I was like, and you're alone too. It's so much easier training with a coach. It's so much easier training with your boy.
I'm with you. I was telling Seamus this morning actually how I go to like a local. I have a couple of friends here in San Clemente that swim on Friday mornings, and it's just like it's a 3,000 always, and it's always like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but it's like I'm never gonna do a 3,000 by myself. So I'd rather go there and just kind of like do my aerobic that day because I'm not doing it by myself.
I had because I live in Houston, I had Mitch and Joel come visit, and they came in and we trained like every day for the week because they stay at my house, because we had like a decent sized house, and so we was like crash at our place. And I remember how fun it was. I was like, I miss swimming like with teammates, because I was like, it sucks by yourself. And then when they left, I was like, damn, this sucks again.
Yeah. But that's why I don't know how Kim McAvoy does it and like how those guys do it, because it's like, even as a sprinter, like you rely so much on like that feedback of like time and like making sure stroke rate, making sure like you want to know what you went to the 15, what you went to the 25, and training alone and not knowing what that looks like kind of sucks.
It was just okay, it feels good, like, oh, I feel fast, but like you could still feel fast and you could be swimming so slow,
right,
all those variables. And like another thing is the technique. You can feel the technique, but it can look totally different. Like you do the gallop and you think it's right, but then you look at it and you're like, that's the worst gallop I've ever seen. I was at the meet, I was watching my races. Obviously I didn't have that while I was training again, and I was just like, the mistakes that I made at LSU and like what I worked so hard on like fixing with like Lyle, like all that, was like one of my feet would come out of the water when I'm breathing. And it's like, I saw that happening again. I was like, well, it's too late now. Like I got to race. But like I was seeing those backstroke. It was so bad. I was lane line. I wasn't swimming straight down, and that was something I had to work with the coach at LSU, was fixing that swimming straight and not zigzagging, because I was doing that at Deaflympic. So that's where the only 2 months of training comes in, where you didn't have the consistency of knowing how to be perfect technique and stuff. It was kind of just throw it out, muscle it up, and see what you go. But there was no technique. That was you could see the technique, lack of technique in the races. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who goes as a coach? Who's the coach at Def? Like when you go to a Def meet like that?
Oh yeah, it's every 4 years is different. There's no like permanent coach. It's kind of like who wants to coach, and there'll be a selection. Typically, is a coach of one of the swimmers that's going. But I think this time it was a coach that wasn't part of any of the swimmers on the team. But I think they did. I don't know if it was Special Olympics, but I think he had some ties to coaching, something outside of just USA's like swimming stuff. And so I think that's what made him on a coach for this. Yeah. And it was funny. I never met him before. He knows I'm a fast swimmer, but he was like, so you haven't trained in 2 years? I was like, no. He's like, do you think you're going to do all 28 races? I was like, we'll find out. Like, I'm going to do it. But like, and I don't, and like, I could get that, because I would think the same thing. If someone hadn't swam in 2 years and only trained for 2 months, and like, I'm older now, like the older you get, the harder it is to kind of make up for that gap. So he was like hesitant. I was like, I don't blame you, because I would be too. But I was like, but I've got this, like mentally I've got this. Yeah.
Mm. Well, let me know next time. I'll put my name in a hat to go with you.
Dude, that would be dope. Well, they just announced it's going to be in Greece, Athens, in 2023. It's going to be pretty sick.
Go.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's awesome. Great, Matt. We have a sponsor on our podcast, Swim Smart, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the company, but Zhao is the kind of social media marketing guy for Swim Smart and uses a lot of their equipment. I've recently been using Swim Smart's equipment, and we formulated this question, and it goes, what does swimming smart mean to you?
I would say swimming smart would be, I think, like technique, being responsible, kind of like taking care of your body before the race, swimming smart. Don't show up, like don't go up behind the block in just a suit, be wearing a parka, be wearing a hoodie, get prepared. I think those are like smart swimming. Smart swimming is preparing right, technique, and training, like, because it's a very broad question, but like I think it's like those kind of the fundamentals of that is knowing what you're doing, know that everything has a kind of a purpose. Like, why are you swimming with this angle? Why are you swimming straight arm in the sprints? Like kind of knowing why you're swimming this way, and how you're pacing yourself and those kind of things.
Yeah, I love that. Another question, throughout your swimming career, what have been sort of the biggest difference makers, would you say, as far as seeing, those improvements or those time drops, or when you've kind of been like, oh, wow, this clicked, like this worked? Like, what do you think that was? Just to share with other people.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I was fixing
no worries. So the question was, where, like, at what times throughout your swimming career have you noticed the biggest improvements, or moments where it's like, wow, this is finally clicking? Like, has that been, where has that been, or what does that look like?
I think there's been multiple. Like, I think those are like not the peaks, but like, you hit the peak and then you hit another peak and another peak. And I think that was, junior year when I got bigger, but then there wasn't much into that. That was just strictly genetics. I think at LSU was another one with Steve, because he was a sprint coach, but he also kind of did like the middle distance as well. And it was that, like, and then with Lyle too, it was obviously like smart training. Like, we have to train your body to get ready for these kind of races and stuff, but it was like technical too. Like with me and Lyle, we were looking up like YouTube videos of techniques and stuff. And it was like seeing how to make every detail better, you know. I think honestly, like, it sounds like cliche, but like Google, YouTube was like kind of like the best thing, is like learning information, you're not just enclosed into this one coach, and like your coach can only help you out so much when they've got 30 other swimmers, but like doing your own time is watch videos of Caleb Dressel, how he swims and how he prepares, you know, Adam PD, you know, like there's a reason why these guys are so good, you know, and so kind of far ahead of the curve, you know, they're doing things differently. Paying attention to their technique, you know, what started my straight arm technique in swimming that made me become a sprinter basically was Vladimir Morozov. If you heard of him, he was the early stages of like, I know there's Pavlov, I think too. And they were straight arm techniques, and I was never a straight arm guy. I was always bent arm, and I looked at them, and that changed my sprint so much, was transitioning to like that kind of thing. It was Google search, you know, YouTube, and watching how the best do it. I think that was the biggest like change, was just like that.
Yeah, it's a great answer. Absolutely. Yeah, awesome. It leads me to my last question. Are you a fan of a get out swim? And if so, do you have a favorite get out swim story?
You know, like any sprinter is going to be a fan of get out swims. Like we've done enough yards. Honestly, it actually, not to be biased, but it was Zhao. I remember, because Zhao was working on his 100 free. Like your 50 frees were always there, but those 100s, it was like, oh, is he going to die at that 75? But you went like a best time after practice of the 100 free. Like you go like 40.
Remember?
Like
44-3, 44-2, 44-3. Yeah.
I was like, man, that's pretty. I'm like, I want to do it, but I don't want to do it. But like, Zhao did the work, but it was feedback. That was
it was like towards either my senior year or my junior year. I think Steve started this thing. Like he would just like point out at people, be like, all right, like if you do this,
and it was Zhao.
Yeah, like
okay, Zhao could do the 50, but the 100 is the big question. So, like,
Let's
get out. And Zhao got out, thank God.
Yeah.
That's right. I haven't heard that before. That's sick.
Yeah. And it was fun. I think it was funny because this is another story, but like I did something wrong and I was getting punished for like a week in a weight room. And so my legs were dead, and I think it was like Matt said, I had a chip on my shoulder that day, and it was just like, I just want to, you know, prove to them that, you know, I'm still here. But yeah.
I'm still that guy.
I'm still the guy. But yeah, Matt, dude, awesome, man. Awesome connecting with you. We need to call more often. I'm happy that you got to experience, you know, the Deaflympics one more time, and I'm happy that you're working towards increasing awareness, because you know, like, you have our help, dude. Like, anything you need to promote the documentary, you need to promote Deaflympics, you can come talk to us. You can bring more athletes anytime, because you know, we want to grow the sport. We want to show like all fun parts of the sport, and I'm happy that I get to call you a good friend, a brother, and I'm happy that we got to chat.
Yeah, definitely. It's always great chatting up with you.
Awesome, dude.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. And yeah, dude, keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks for having me.